That morning, the atmosphere at the company was one of celebration. After months of tough negotiations, the CEO had finally closed the deal everyone had been waiting for. The communications team was preparing a small cocktail party in the main hall with flowers, imported drinks, and a table full of fine snacks. It was the kind of event that symbolized success, power, and corporate victories. Every detail had been carefully planned to impress clients, investors, and of course, the press already waiting at the door to cover the moment. The hall was full of important people. Men in dark suits and women in sophisticated dresses circulated among the tables, exchanging formal greetings and rehearsed smiles. Glasses of champagne were being distributed by hurried waiters, while instrumental music filled the room with calculated elegance. Everything seemed under control. Everything. Except for one detail that almost no one noticed. While the executives toasted to the company's promising future, a discreet figure watched everything from a distance. She, as always, wore her cleaning uniform. Hair tied back, watchful eyes. Silent steps. For years she had gone unnoticed in that building, invisible to the eyes of those who wore ties and shiny leather shoes. But that day, something inside her said that something was wrong. While picking up empty glasses from one of the tables, she noticed a strange movement near the counter where the drinks were being prepared. A man, who wasn't part of the staff, was discreetly tampering with one of the bottles that would be served to the CEO. It was a quick gesture, almost imperceptible. But her trained eyes, used to noticing what no one else saw, caught every detail. The man looked around, making sure no one was paying attention, and left through the side door with hurried steps. In seconds, he disappeared down the hallway. She, pretending everything was normal, continued with her routine, but now with a racing heart and a knot in her throat. Her instinct screamed. There was something very wrong with that glass dot. As the speeches began, the CEO climbed onto the improvised stage to thank everyone. The waiter approached with the glass reserved especially for him. It was the closing toast. The symbolic moment when he would raise the glass, give an impactful speech, and seal the success of that historic morning. With each step the waiter took towards the CEO, the cleaning lady felt her hands sweating. Something inside her said that if that man took that sip, something terrible would happen. She tried to get the attention of one of the security guards, but as always, no one listened to her. She was just the cleaning lady. Just the invisible woman who cleaned the floor after everyone had left. She knew she had to act fast. But how to interrupt such an important ceremony? How to stop a powerful man from drinking from his own glass without being immediately removed? As an intruder, the seconds seemed to drag on. The waiter extended the hand with the glass. The CEO smiled, took the glass. And in that instant, everything around seemed to slow down. She dropped the tray with empty glasses she was carrying, ignored the looks of astonishment, and ran towards the stage. Her voice cut through the silence like a desperate scream. Don't drink. For a second, everyone stood still. The CEO looked surprised at the woman who until that moment, he barely knew existed. The waiter froze with wide eyes. The tension was palpable. Some guests began to murmur. Others just watched without understanding. She climbed onto the stage without permission, snatched the glass from the CEO's hand, and without hesitation, poured it on the floor. The liquid spread across the light-colored carpet, leaving a dark stain that contrasted with the festive atmosphere. The silence turned into a buzz of confusion. Security guards rushed to restrain her. Directors demanded explanations. The CEO, still confused, asked that no one touch her until she explained the reason for her actions. Breathing heavily, she explained what she had seen moments before. She told about the mysterious man, the strange behavior, the tampering with the drink. No one knew for sure whether to believe her. Some thought she was making it up. Others thought it was an attempt to draw attention. But the truth soon came to light when the head of security, as a precaution, ordered the spilled liquid to be collected and sent for immediate analysis at the company's lab. Meanwhile, she remained seated in a corner with trembling hands but a clear conscience. Deep down, she was sure she had done the right thing, even if it cost her job, even if she was humiliated in front of everyone. What she didn't imagine was that the next few hours would bring a revelation that would forever change her life and the company's history. So if you think you already know how this story ends, I need to warn you, what comes next is much bigger than anyone in that room could have predicted. Stay until the end, because the truth behind that glass will surprise you in a way you never imagined. The atmosphere in the hall changed completely after the cleaning lady's intervention. Guests exchanged confused glances. The CEO remained frozen, still with his hand half raised, as if the glass were still there. The waiter trembled, visibly nervous, unsure of what to do with the tray in his hands. One by one, the directors approached, trying to understand what had just happened. The woman, still breathless, felt the weight of all eyes on her, but now she was no longer invisible. People whispered, discreetly pointed, and some even recorded with their phones. She stood there, in the center of a whirlwind that seemed to grow with every second. Inside her, the mix of fear and certainty kept her steady. The head of security stepped forward. He approached slowly, hands raised in a calming gesture, like someone approaching a person on the verge of collapse. He asked in a low and serious tone exactly what she had seen. She described the unknown man, detailing every movement, every suspicious glance, every gesture that caught her attention. The head of security's eyes narrowed. He quickly instructed his colleagues to check the internal security cameras. The order was clear and urgent. I want footage from all hallways, especially near the drinks counter. It was the start of an investigation no one had planned to conduct that day. While the guards rushed to the monitoring room, the CEO remained silent, staring at the spilled liquid on the floor. The color looked harmless, the aroma equally normal. But the woman's warning, the courage with which she acted, sparked a strange feeling inside him. Something told him this needed to be taken seriously. The minutes felt like hours. Meanwhile, guests were instructed to stay in the hall, with no one allowed in or out. The security team conducted discreet sweeps, searching for the man the cleaning lady had described. But the man seemed to have vanished. No sign of him in the hallways, no visitor ID issued, no record of entry. Across the building, the camera analysts fast-forwarded and rewound the footage rapidly. Finally, one of them found the recording. A man in a dark jacket and low cap, walking hurriedly near the drinks area. The footage clearly showed the exact moment he tampered with the glass. Intended for the CEO, the news reached the hall within minutes. The head of security rushed to the CEO and, speaking close to his ear, told him what they had discovered. The executive's face changed instantly. The look of doubt turned into a mix of shock and disbelief. Instinctively, he looked again at the cleaning lady, now leaning against one of the walls, arms crossed, watching everything. A specialized chemical analysis team was urgently called in. An improvised lab was set up on the lower floor. Technicians wearing gloves, masks, and portable equipment tested the liquid she had prevented the CEO from drinking. Meanwhile, conversations in the hall turned into a sea of speculation and conspiracy theories. Some directors began questioning how a stranger had managed to enter unnoticed. Others asked who this cleaning lady really was, the one who had suddenly become the center of attention. There were those who doubted the entire story, thinking it was just a misinterpreted coincidence. But the CEO's look, that was pure concern. Minutes later, one of the chemical analysts entered the hall with a tense expression. He asked to speak privately with the CEO. They moved to an isolated corner, but close enough for some curious guests to notice the gravity of the conversation. The technician, with a low and serious voice, delivered the preliminary report. There was indeed a toxic agent mixed into the drink. The CEO's blood ran cold. He stared at the empty glass on the floor as if it were an invisible enemy. The realization hit him hard. If he had taken that sip, he would likely already be on the ground, fighting for his life. His body trembled, but his mind was already processing the magnitude of the danger he had unknowingly faced. The first decision was to immediately tighten security. The building exits were locked. No one could leave until the suspect was identified and detained. Police were urgently called. The company, which hours earlier had been celebrating a major achievement, was now living a scene worthy of a suspense movie. As the investigators arrived, the cleaning lady was taken to a reserved room for a more detailed statement. During the conversation, she revealed that, since childhood, she had the habit of observing behavior. She had always been like that. Watchful eyes, sharp hearing, a mind always alert to details others ignored. She explained how she had noticed the tension on the strange man's face, how she saw the nervousness in his hands as he handled the glass, how her instinct told her that something was wrong. Every word she spoke made the police officers and directors in the room look at her with more respect and less suspicion. Meanwhile, the detectives began to search every corner of the building, reviewing footage, checking visitor lists, and cross-referencing data with the HR team. The main question now was, who was that man? And what exactly was his goal in trying to poison the company's CEO? The mood among the guests was one of apprehension. Some had already started texting family members telling them what was happening. Others called journalist friends, trying to get inside information about the case. But internet access was limited by the security team to prevent leaks. As the investigation gained momentum, the CEO made an important decision. He asked for the cleaning lady to be brought back to the hall. He wanted to thank her publicly. Still shaken, he climbed back onto the stage, took the microphone, and with a trembling voice, told everyone what had happened. He revealed the risk he had faced, explained how her intervention had saved his life, and declared, in front of everyone, his deep gratitude. The woman was called to the stage. She walked there with hesitant steps, eyes downcast, as if still not believing that all of this was really happening. The hall, which minutes earlier had been in shock, now erupted in applause. People who had never noticed her now looked at her with admiration. The directors, one by one, stood up and clapped. Even the most skeptical guests recognized her courage and composure. As she received the recognition, the head of security approached the CEO and whispered a new piece of information. They had identified the suspect in footage from an external camera. The man had exited through the garage minutes before the building was locked down, but what no one expected was what they would discover in the next few hours. The suspect's face, when cross-referenced with previous visitor records, was familiar. A name no one imagined seeing involved in something so serious. A direct connection to the company's past. Someone with an old motive for seeking revenge. And this detail would change everything they thought they knew up until that moment. Now pale, the CEO asked that the cleaning lady be brought back to the conference room. He wanted to tell her who the man behind that attempt really was, because, somehow, she would still play a crucial role in the final outcome of that entire story, and what was coming next would be even more surprising than everything that had already happened so far. The news about the suspect's identity hit the conference room like a bomb. The directors exchanged glances, as if suddenly facing a ghost from the past. His name was in the company's records, but in a chapter of history everyone preferred to forget. He had been a former employee fired years ago for reasons that were still a taboo topic in the hallways. No one spoke openly about what had happened, but rumors said he had been accused of manipulating confidential data and trying to extort money from the company itself. Since then, he had disappeared without a trace. Now he was back. And this time, with a much darker plan. He had tried to attack the CEO directly, in the middle of a public event, right under everyone's eyes. It was a clear message. He wanted to be noticed, wanted everyone to know he was still around, and that he could be dangerous. The atmosphere among the executives grew heavy. Some were already talking about reinforcing company security, changing access protocols, and hiring private intelligence consultants. Others, more desperate, considered canceling upcoming events and even suspending building activities until the police found the culprit. While the directors debated, the cleaning lady remained seated on a chair by the door, listening silently. She observed every reaction, every word spoken, every expression of fear disguised as institutional concern. Inside, she felt this story still had many hidden layers. The head of security approached her again. He said they needed her help to review the recordings. With her sharp eyes, she would probably notice details the professionals had missed. Without hesitation, she agreed. She knew this was the best way to help. In the monitoring room, she spent hours analyzing every frame. She watched the movements in the hallways, unauthorized accesses, the moments when the man appeared in the shadows, moving through less guarded areas. It was like solving a real-time puzzle, with missing pieces and the clock ticking against them. In one of the videos, she noticed something the others hadn't. The suspect wasn't acting alone. In at least 3 moments, he exchanged glances and discreet signals with another man. Someone who, by all indications, was still inside the building. The danger wasn't over. The discovery was immediately taken to the CEO. The tension rose again. Now, besides dealing with a fugitive criminal, they had an accomplice hidden among the guests or employees. Security was tightened, and new orders were given. No one in, no one out, and everyone would be searched before leaving the premises. Meanwhile, the cleaning lady continued her observation work. At one point, while passing through a side hallway, she noticed an employee acting strangely. He was near an electrical panel, tampering with wires he clearly shouldn't be touching. Her suspicion flared like a red alert. She decided to approach silently. She watched from afar, hidden behind a toshbia pillar. When she realized he was trying to disable part of the camera system, she didn't think twice. She ran to the nearest security team member and reported what was happening. Within minutes, the man was surrounded. He tried to resist, made up excuses, but the camera footage already showed him caught red-handed. Under pressure, he confessed to being part of the plan. His mission was to disable the security systems to facilitate a new entry for his partner. When the CEO received this information, his legs weakened. The threat was bigger and more organized than he had imagined. Now, with 2 people involved, the priority was to protect everyone inside the building and, of course, to protect his own life. The authorities were updated, and a task force began to form. While investigators interrogated the arrested accomplice, the cleaning lady was called back to the conference room. This time, not as just a witness, but as someone whose observation skills were proving essential to keeping everyone safe. The CEO greeted her with a different look. It was no longer the look of someone who barely noticed her in the hallways. Now it was the look of a grateful and worried man. He asked her to recount, in as much detail as possible, everything she had seen since that morning. She described the waiter's strange behavior, the suspicious movements in the hallways, the exchanged glances between the 2 men involved, and even small details like the way the main suspect held his phone, trying to hide the screen. Every bit of information she provided helped the police piece the puzzle together. And the more she spoke, the more respect she gained. The directors themselves, who previously didn't even know her name, now called her our biggest ally in this crisis. Hours passed, and the tension remained. New clues emerged, and the intelligence team began mapping the possible next moves of the fugitive criminal. Tireless, the cleaning lady volunteered to help with the searches, walking the floors with the guards, pointing out places where he might be hiding. At one point, while passing near the underground parking lot, she noticed something no one else did. A maintenance door, usually locked, was slightly ajar. Her heart raced. She immediately pointed it out to the security guards, who cautiously advanced. Upon fully opening the door, the scene confirmed the worst. The suspect was inside, with sabotage equipment and a ready escape plan. Realizing he'd been discovered, he tried to flee through the emergency exit, but was intercepted by agents who had already surrounded the area. The arrest was swift, but the scare, that would linger for a long time. The man was taken away in handcuffs, under the jeers and boos of some employees who had come down to the parking lot to witness the outcome firsthand. When the CEO was informed of the capture, he breathed a sigh of relief for the first time in hours. When the cleaning lady returned to the hall, the applause was instant. Once again, she had made the difference. Not only had she saved the CEO's life, but she had also prevented a much larger tragedy. And at that moment, before everyone, she realized her life would never be the same. The CEO, with teary eyes, took the microphone. He announced that, from that day on, she would hold a new position within the company, not as a cleaning lady, but as part of the internal security and intelligence team. A promotion that came with recognition, a fair salary, and most importantly, respect. As applause filled the hall once again, she simply smiled. She knew there was still much to live. And what was coming next would be even more surprising. The next morning, the company was still under the effects of what had happened. Journalists waited outside, cameras rolling, microphones ready for any official statement. The story was already on the front pages of all major news portals. Janitor prevents attack on CEO and uncovers internal sabotage. Inside the building, employees seemed to walk more slowly through the hallways, as if each one was still processing everything. Conversations were hushed. Glances exchanged carried a mix of relief, shame for never having paid attention to her before, and a great curiosity about what would become of that woman's life from then on. The CEO, in his office, was organizing the final decisions before giving a press conference. His advisors tried to create a Q&A script, but in every line, one name appeared as the protagonist, hers. Meanwhile, she walked through the corridors with the same humility as always. Even wearing her janitor's uniform, she was now greeted by everyone. Those who used to look away now stared at her with respect. Some even stopped to thank her. Others, embarrassed, just smiled shyly. As she passed by the IT room, she was met with spontaneous applause. The engineers, used to working surrounded by technology, now looked at her as someone who had done the impossible. She smiled discreetly and continued on her way, with that same serene and attentive look that had followed her since her first day at the company. At the reception, a bouquet of flowers awaited her. No note, no sender. Just the flowers and a card with a simple phrase, "Thank you for saving all of us." She held the arrangement carefully, feeling the symbolic weight of that gesture. By late morning, she was called to the boardroom once again. The CEO awaited her alongside the entire board of directors. They had unanimously decided to offer her an official position on the corporate security team, not as a favor, not as charity, but because everyone there knew she had the talent and ability to make a difference. She listened to the proposal carefully. The CEO's voice trembled with emotion as he described the new position, the salary, the benefits, the training she would have access to. But what touched her the most was hearing directly from him that she was now seen as a fundamental part of the company's structure. Before responding, she took a deep breath. She looked at each person in the room and said she accepted, but with one condition: that she could continue wearing her janitor's uniform until the end of that month. She wanted to close that chapter with dignity as a tribute to her mother and to herself. The CEO moved, agreed immediately. Everyone present respected her decision. At that moment, she was no longer just the invisible employee. She was the symbol of overcoming, intelligence, and courage that everyone there would never forget. In the following hours, she began receiving messages from recruiters at other companies. Invitations for interviews, tempting offers, opportunities. She had never imagined receiving one day. But she knew her mission there wasn't over yet. During lunch, she sat with some of the oldest members of the cleaning staff. Amid laughter and tears, she recounted everything she had experienced over the past 48 hours. Her friends who had always silently supported her now celebrated her victory. As the afternoon progressed, she was called to record an institutional video. Something simple, just to document the story and show the world that behind every badge, there's a person with talents and dreams. She agreed but insisted on speaking in her own words. In the recording, she said she never sought recognition, that she had simply done what she believed was right. She said she never stopped learning, even when no one believed in her. And she ended with a phrase that left the entire production team in silence. Sometimes, the most invisible people are the ones carrying the biggest answers. When the video went live, it went viral within minutes. Thousands of comments appeared, praising her courage. People from all over were moved by the story. Many said she had become a life inspiration. That night, at home, sitting on the porch with her mother, she looked at the sky and gave silent thanks. She knew her journey was just beginning. The phone kept ringing with new opportunities, but she decided she would only make any decision after thinking carefully. Meanwhile, the police were finalizing the interrogation of the arrested criminal. New developments were emerging, and investigators discovered that his plan was much bigger than just poisoning the CEO. There were other intentions and other targets. Upon receiving this information, she knew she had to stay alert. That story wasn't truly over yet. And deep down, she felt that very soon, she would have to act again to protect the people who now trusted her. Before going to sleep, she picked up her old notebook and wrote a single sentence: "I will never be invisible again." And now, if this story touched you, if it inspired you in any way, it's your turn to act. Leave a comment telling us what you would do in her place. Share this video with someone who needs a dose of courage and recognition. And of course, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and stay with us, because the next stories promise to surprise you even more.